You're listening to Cosmic Cousins Soul-Centered Astrology. I am your host, Jeff Henshaw. Thanks for tuning in. Cosmic Cousins is dedicated to honoring the interconnectedness of our universal family through embodied health, self-discovery, and deeper learning. And it is here to bring you back into alignment with the cosmos. So thank you for being here as always. Oh my goddess, it feels like it has been so long since I have gathered with you all for this podcast. Welcome back to another episode. This is Jeff Henshaw. I am your host of this podcast, Cosmic Cousins. I'm feeling us coming up on our anniversary. It's not till September, but we're coming up on the 5th year of the podcast. So, it feels like it's been a while since I've chatted with you because I took off the Gemini new moon. So it's been about a month since we've last gathered. Eclipse season during Taurus season, and then Mercury retrograde and Gemini season. A lot has been unfolding in my life, a lot of changes, a lot of transformation. And I know that's true for a lot of you out there too. So it's nice to be back. This podcast is a place for ritual, a place for healing and reflection, to come back to your body and to your breath. And it's the same for me. People often ask me what I do for my full moon rituals, and it's quite literally sitting down to record an episode with you all. So I typically will light a candle. I definitely get my tarot cards out. I bring some crystals out, any other items that might be calling to me. So if that calls to you now, I highly encourage you to light a candle during our time together. But I also know what I love about podcasts is we can move around with them. And we are in Gemini season, a mutable air time. And this is a time where we're invited to move around our body and our neighborhood, go on walks. So in whatever way that you are engaging with this information, it is coming with the intention to bring you back into alignment with your truth as we continue to move through the threshold of a global pandemic. So thanks for being here as always. Whenever we gather, it's typically the new or the full moon. And I will offer 3 phrases that connect us to the energy of that lunation. And they are usually intuitively picked out from just like my own downloads of being in the world and meditating on the lunation. But oftentimes they can be traditional too. And so the phrases I have, we're gathering for the Sagittarius Full Moon 2022, right at the end of Gemini season. Gemini in the tarot is the lovers. So you might want to place your lovers card out. Gemini season is an opportunity for us to drop out of our head and into our heart and to truly connect with ourselves and with each other. Sagittarius full moon. Sagittarius is temperance in the tarot, which is I often say bringing heaven down to earth because it's an angel on the earth with 1 foot on land, 1 foot on water. And they have 2 cups, 2 chalices where water is flowing between the chalices. And then there's a path off in the distance. So we're going to get into the invitation of temperance and the lovers today. We are in a lover's year, 2022. If you add up the digits, it equals 6. The lovers in the tarot is number 6. Temperance is number 14. So for those of you that might have connection to these numbers. But yes, our phrases for the Sagittarius full moon. I expand. I envision. I set myself free. So the last one's a phrase, not a word. I expand. I envision. I set myself free. So you can pull a tarot card for each of these phrases. You could journal about them, write about them, use them as a launching pad for conversation with a loved one. You could allow them to be a mantra, breathe them into the body, see what they want to bring up for you, see what space they might want to create. What would it feel like for you to embody these phrases? I expand, I envision, I set myself free. So this Sagittarius full moon is on Tuesday, June 14th at 4:51 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And it is falling at the 23rd degree of Sagittarius. So you can look to your own birth chart to see what you have around 23 degrees of Sagittarius. Let's talk a little bit more about this energy. So this full moon brings an illumination to many themes that are unfolding in our lives. And with a full moon in Sagittarius, emotions and possibilities may be growing. Sagittarius is a sign of great expanse. Its ruling planet is Jupiter, which is the biggest planet in our solar system. And Jupiter is currently in Aries, has been in Aries for a little over a month. And so this is the first full moon in a fire sign. Sagittarius is fire. This is the first full moon in a fire sign since Jupiter has entered a fire sign. And so we may feel, a lot of us, that we are on the precipice of grand, bold, new beginnings, and that things might really start to be picking up here. Since it's a full moon, full moons are emotional. Emotions could be heightened, but the energy of fire, Jupiter in Aries, full moon in Sagittarius, is asking us to burn through karma, to burn through past patterns, codependencies, self-sabotage. So in what ways are you bringing in some sort of fiery devotional practice in your life that help you burn through so that you can create new life? With Sagittarius, the soul invitation is to reorient your heart and your mind towards union. It's often a high ideal, but bringing things together, building bridges between opposition, building bridges through an interdisciplinary approach. You know, as an astrologer, I bring tarot into my practice. I bring psychology. I bring embodied health and yoga philosophy. I have 2 planets in Sagittarius in my chart. Saturn in Sagittarius, Uranus in Sagittarius. Both of my ruling planets is in Aquarius. So Sagittarius is a very important sign to me. This podcast is a Sagittarius rising. So what do you have in Sagittarius in your heart and in your chart? And how are you reflecting on the Sagittarius full moon? So there's evolution happening with Sagittarius. There's growth. As we evolve and grow our capacity to love, it's important to stay focused. Sagittarius is the one-pointed archer pointing its arrow at the middle of the target. So Sagittarius in its lower form can be scattered in its approach, does not know what it's aiming its arrow at, can become easily distracted by the pursuit of the external world. But that focal point comes from an internal gaze. And it needs to be grounded, it needs to be centered. So when we think of temperance as the soul growth card for Sagittarius, temperance is grounded, has 1 foot on ground, 1 foot on the water. It's very gentle in its approach, very sensitive, very receptive, but also has these fiery, expansive angel wings too, the figure on the card. So we're taking up space but staying centered. And so how might you bring your internal gaze back to your breath at this time? How might you quiet the mind? It's a big invitation during Gemini season. Gemini season is conscious air. And Gemini season has been firing off with all these new ideas, new connections, new possible directions. And the Sagittarius full moon, super conscious fire, is wanting to set some of these new discoveries into motion with a high vision. So what have you experienced over Gemini season? I believe it started, what was the May 20th? Is that the beginning of Gemini season? Right around that time period, May 20th, May 21st. Literally, the day the sun entered Gemini, my mom and her best friend flew out to visit me from across the country, and the Gemini twins arrived. My mom had never been to the Pacific Northwest. I spent a week taking her around Oregon. We had a wonderful time. And then I needed about a week to recover after that. And there's just been so many other activities going on. I went to an astrology conference. So I'm starting to do things in person again. And because of that, I am needing to take extra time to regulate, to pause, to let myself and my nervous system know that it's safe to be here on this planet and to be around others, So being extra sensitive with yourself. And again, whatever new discoveries you've had over Gemini seasons, Gemini comes and shakes things up. It's mutable air. The Sagittarius full moon is wanting to decipher between all of the things that have been shaken up and actually take one of those arrows and use it. So wanting to set something in motion, new discoveries into motion with a high vision. And so with all of the expansion that is available during Gemini season and also with the Sagittarius full moon, it is important to remember that it first comes from within. Both Gemini and Sagittarius benefit from a spiritual practice. And I mean, we could say this is true for all 12 signs, but there's something particular in this Gemini-Sagittarius axis that connects us to spiritual practice and connection with something that's greater than the self. I often like to come back to our zodiac queens. It feels like 100 years ago now, but we did a Zodiac Queens project in 2018 where we named a queen for each zodiac sign, which is highlighting the life of an inspirational person that offers us a representation of that archetype. And so we can look at Queen of Gemini, Stevie Nicks, who actually just performed here right outside of Portland last Friday. I was hoping to go, but I wasn't able to make it. We can look at Stevie Nicks' life, Queen of Gemini, and Queen of Sagittarius is Tina Turner, to put a face to a name. So right now we have the sun in Stevie Nicks and a full moon in Tina Turner. And so both of these women have moved through incredible adversity in their lives. Stevie Nicks hit rock bottom with her addictions, Tina Turner with an abusive relationship. But both of these women rose back up on top through their spiritual practices. And they shared their experiences through their wisdom. Both of them gained incredible wisdom through these experiences. And so through their wisdom and their creativity and their talents, they uplift the collective through love. And there's something in this Gemini Sagittarius axis of, maybe hitting rock bottom and finding some sort of spiritual practice that uplifts you so that you can then share your wisdom with the world. They're both wise signs. And so Stevie Nicks became sober and gained control of her life through AA and has talked in interviews about her spiritual practice with magic, with angels, with fairies, and a belief in past lives. So all of this feels very Gemini to me. The AA practice is connected to community, one's immediate community, Gemini, like your neighbors, your peers, your siblings. And it's very air element, AA. Communicative, it's relational, it can be quite logical, but there's also a belief in something greater. And when we think of the Lover's card as soul growth for Gemini, there's a lot of relational things going on there and a lot about duality and bringing both sides of the self together, but there's usually also an angel there that's blessing that union. And so the connection to the angelic realm is important. And we see that also on Temperance too for Sagittarius. So yeah, this all feels, when we think of the logical side and the communicative, the relational side of AA as a practice that maybe could connect us to Gemini, it's also about bringing balance between duality within yourself, making amends with your shadow. You add in the connection that Stevie Nicks has to magic and fairies, and we start to feel the duality and the contradiction of this very ethereal Gemini energy. And then what about Sagittarius? How does Sagittarius connect with a spiritual practice? Tina Turner, on the other hand, also utilized spiritual practices to transform her life. And she's a self-proclaimed Buddhist Baptist, which is alluding to her upbringing in the Baptist church and then her later conversion to Buddhism. and she healed her life through the power of chant, Nam-myo Renge Kyo. And one of the Sagittarius soul missions is to build bridges between the religions of the world. And she later went on to release a Buddhist chant album. She's chanted and sung and spoken about Buddhism in relationship to Christianity. And her practice with chanting, this feels much more fiery in nature than the Gemini example we were giving. Like to actually chant, to move energy through the body. It also connects us to the world at large, which is Sagittarius. Sagittarius is connected to other religions, other philosophies. So for me, one way that I work with my Sagittarian energy is through practicing yoga. It's a practice from another part of the world that gets my body moving. It's fiery, especially hot yoga, which I have started up in the last week. I've gone every day this week. So I'm celebrating that on this Sagittarius full moon. I have not gathered in person for a yoga class since 2019, since before the pandemic. So it feels really nice to feel in the last few weeks or the last few days for me to finally have the energy and the ability to gather with others through a body-based practice. So this is something that's coming up for me and that I'm reflecting on the Sagittarius full moon. So how are you staying focused and tapped into source consciousness? How are you transforming your life through a fiery devotional practice? Are you connecting with more the Gemini side? If it's not fiery, how are you connecting with a logical spiritual practice that holds you accountable? Both of these immutable signs, Gemini and Sag, benefit from reconnecting to the internal world through some sort of spiritual or devotional practice. And so this full moon, it isn't so much, Sagittarius can be so outward. The esoteric phrase for Sagittarius is, I see the goal, I reach the goal, and then I see another. But what if that goal is more about your own healing journey and your own internal growth? This full moon doesn't feel so much about what is the high vision, where are you going, how are you getting there, but it's more about how are you connecting with something greater than yourself at this time, while also rooting down deeper into yourself so that you can be available to expand in that way. So, my wish for you on this very charged Sagittarius full moon here at the end of Gemini season is that you give your mind and your aspirations a rest. So you can exhale that, and release the need to know. Gemini season, we want to know. We want to know what's going on. What is the plan? And Sagittarius says, and I want to know for the future. So release the need to know. And I encourage you to begin to tap into expanding your capacity to explore your internal landscapes. Expand your communication with spirit. Come back home to your breath. Move your body, your legs. Sagittarius is the legs and the thighs. Your arms. Gemini is the arms and the hands. And so this is, get things moving. We're heading into the light on the northern hemisphere, the longest day of the year. And so, yes, your connection within. Once you expand the horizons of your connection within, your world will naturally expand without. And so thanks for being here, as always, Cosmic Cousins. I have some exciting announcements, some new offerings that are coming up for this summer and this autumn and into next year. The Sagittarius full moon does feel like a time to announce things, so I'm excited to share that with you. And also, we're going to be looking at the birth chart of the legendary Judy Garland. This is in honor of Pride Month. Happy Pride Month. I'm so grateful to be out and to be gay. And so love to all the LGBTQIA two-spirit community. So yes, we're going to honor, after I do some announcements, we'll honor the gay icon Judy Garland. Her life, she was a Gemini with a Sagittarius moon. So this is her lunation. This would have been her 100th birthday this month. So we're going to look at her chart and talk about her life. But first, let's do a little bit of announcements, and I'll close out our Sagittarius full moon time together by just saying, I have an affirmation for us. A Sagittarius full moon affirmation. I put my faith in something greater than myself. Can you say that to yourself? I put my faith in something greater than myself. I lovingly let go of control. I lovingly let go of control. So deep breath into the legs, into the arms, the hands, the thighs. And exhale, I lovingly let go of control. Okay, I have some really exciting community offerings that just feel so aligned to be announcing on the Sagittarius full moon. You know, Sagittarius is optimistic, idealistic, is enjoying coming together in community. It's our collective fire sign. Sagittarius also likes to embark on long, epic journeys. So some of you might know what I'm alluding to when I talk about journeys. So it is with complete excitement to announce that I will be offering the 6-month ritual immersion through the major arcana of the tarot this year for the first time ever in Portland, Oregon. This will also be my first time in over 5 years leading the journey in person. So I'm so stoked and excited to meet you, whoever it is that lives in Portland or the surrounding area and is interested in gathering. More than ever, we need to be gathering with others in intimate containers in person to be held, to be witnessed, to be supported by a loving community of like-minded folks. And so I have learned so much during this pandemic that it is so crucial to our overall sense of well-being. And so it is with a great honor that I'll be able to offer this experience again in person. It's typically called the Brooklyn Fools, since that's where it was originally founded. But Portland Fools also has a nice ring to it. So the Portland Fools, it's going to start in September. So this is giving you a 3-month notice. September of 2022, the autumn equinox. It's going to start the week of the autumn equinox, and it will take us to March 2023 to the spring equinox. And so if you're not in Portland, in tandem, I'm also excited to announce that I will be offering the Fool's Journey online through Zoom gathering as well. The online group will also meet from September, the autumn equinox on the northern hemisphere, to the spring equinox in March. And so if you're interested in either the in-person Portland Fools gathering or the online Fool's Journey, there's a link in the show notes. You can fill out a form. I'm not explaining what the Fool's Journey is that much because I know a lot of you listening already know about the Fool's Journey. But if you are new to it, you can also check out that link. It is a deep dive community gathering ritual that travels from the Fool, number 0, to the World, number 21. So each of the 22 major arcana cards, we go into deep meditation, ritual connection, heart connection on these archetypes. And this will be my 8th year leading the journey. So those are some of the new announcements. I have one more. I know it's a lot. Sagittarius is a lot, right? I also have, in the meantime, before we get to September, I do have another community online support offering. And this is an 8-week online community support group for spiritual and wellness practitioners. So we'll be meeting on Tuesday nights throughout the summer, July, August, and September. And I feel called to this because over the past few years, I've proudly witnessed many of you in our community members, students, clients. I've seen many of you expand your gifts and your offerings by stepping into roles as teachers and astrologers, tarot readers, healers, writers. And so in tandem with that expansion, we've also been moving through a pandemic. And so it's important that we hold hands with each other as we are spiritual practitioners together. So this is a community to share with each other our lessons and our expertise so that we can continue to offer our gifts to the world without burning out. So if you're longing for community support, then this group is for you. It's an 8-week online support group set with the intention to provide a structure for greater presence through the nourishment of togetherness. Weekly check-ins with a consistent group of like-minded magical practitioners holds the potential for heart-opening breakthroughs and connections this summer. So I have 2 community offerings for you. I know my heart needs it, Aquarius through and through over here. So if you are feeling the call to be in community this summer or this fall and into next year, into 2023, it would be an absolute honor. I have links to all of this up in the show notes. And again, I also have my books for the summer for tarot and astrology readings and mentorships are officially open on this full moon. So yes, those are all the announcements I have for us today. At this time, let's transition into this final part of our Sagittarius Full Moon episode, where we honor the life of Judy Garland. In honor of Pride Month, we are looking at the gay icon and legend Judy Garland's birth chart and honoring her life because she would have turned 100 this year. Her birthday is June 10th, 1922, and she was born in Grand Rapids, Michigan. The name instantly evokes a theatrical nostalgia, Judy Garland, and particularly in the collective American memory. And she was one of the most iconic actresses of Hollywood's golden age, lighting up movie screens with her talent, charisma, uniqueness, and charm. And just by mentioning the name Dorothy anywhere, this is the image of 16-year-old Judy in a blue and white dress. The movie Wizard of Oz was released in 1939. And Judy's talent was not limited to the movie screen. She also crossed into Broadway music and television. But most importantly, she was more than her screen persona. She was a daughter, a sister, a wife, a lover, a mother. Even though she's a Gemini sun with a Sagittarius moon, she's got a lot of emotional things going on in her chart. As a Cancer rising, a lot of planets in Cancer and in Pisces. She's got a Venus and Mercury. Her Venus, her Mercury, her Pluto, her Vesta in Cancer right there at the Cancer rising point. And then she has her North Node and Jupiter in the 4th house with Saturn in the 4th house. So a lot of home and family themes. And she has a Pisces midheaven with Uranus and Black Moon Lilith conjunct in Pisces on the midheaven. I'll talk about all of this in a moment, but there is a deep emotion beneath her Gemini exterior. RuPaul had a tribute to Judy Garland on RuPaul's Drag Race All-Stars back in, I guess it was 2019, because it was in honor of the Stonewall Riot 50th anniversary. And this is what RuPaul said. He said, "Now it has been 50 years since Judy passed, and on the night of her funeral in June of 1969, Biji's waking up from his nap. RuPaul says, now it has been 50 years since Judy passed, and on the night of her funeral in June 1969, the Stonewall riots occurred. Fed up with police harassments, the patrons of the Stonewall used their grief over Judy's death to rise up and fight, and the gay liberation movement was born." So during the Stonewall riots in 1969, it happened in tandem to Judy Garland passing away. And so it is thought and believed that that was not the only reason why there was an uprising and protests that were taking place at that time, but it is one of the reasons why many gays at that time were angry and wanted to fight for their rights. And so the Stonewall riots, if you're not familiar with them, took place in June of 1969 when New York City police raided the Stonewall Inn, which was a gay club located in Greenwich Village in New York City. And so the raid sparked a riot among the bar patrons and the neighborhood residents as police roughly hauled employees and patrons out of the bar, leading to 6 days of protest and violent clashes with law enforcement outside the bar on Christopher Street. So the Stonewall riots are what has essentially led to and has served as a catalyst to the gay rights movements in the United States and also around the world. And it is why we have Pride Month in June. Pride actually started out as riots. And so that's important for us to remember and to call to mind. And so, again, we're honoring this Pride season and also the life of Judy Garland, who is inherently connected to this gay rights movement because of her passing and being a gay icon. Why was Judy Garland a gay icon? I saw an interview. Someone posted this on social media the other day, but it was an interview with Liza Minnelli. And Liza Minnelli is Judy Garland's daughter, for those of you who don't know. But the interviewer said to Liza Minnelli, "Why, you and your mother, Judy, are both gay icons. Why do you think that is?" And Liza Minnelli paused and she said, "I think it's quite simple, because they've got taste." So it could be as simple as that. Judy Garland was just fabulous, but there's a deeper part to her life and her story. She was an exploited star, and it's something quite fascinating when looking at many famous Geminis is that there can be a sense of a double persona that Geminis hold. And, we feel that with Judy. She was vulnerable. Her heart was bigger than she was. She was only 4'11", and she kind of had this, quote unquote, girl next door thing going on. I don't love that phrase, so I'm using it with quotes, the girl next door, but this is actually Gemini. Gemini is our neighbor. Gemini is this childlike energy that can be spunky, lively, joyful, talkative, likable, curious, endearing, innocent one moment. And then on the other hand is duality. So you could say, what's the opposite of innocent? I'm not saying guilty, but there could be a sense of mischievousness or something dark or a deeper sadness or a seriousness. And actually, Judy Garland had that. She had a sharpness, a quick-witted snap to her, but she also had experienced a lot of pain and heartache. And, she had me cracking up in an interview with Barbara Walters, where at first she's super sweet in response to Barbara, but the question was not genuine or real. And Geminis don't like bullshit, and doesn't like people to lie. Needs people to deliver truth. And so Judy Garland kind of snapped back at her and kind of put her in her place. And so there can be this, Geminis being represented by the twin can have two different personalities in one or multiple. And with Judy, you never really knew what you were going to get. And I think that, she herself, to use the word gay as in joyful, she was a very joyful person, but also within that light, she held a lot of darkness, the duality of Gemini, a lot of sorrow, and held a lot of the pain of the world too, which we see present in her chart with the Pisces midheaven. And I think that members of the LGBTQ community are dancing with that duality of what it means to be out and to live your truth and to be happy and gay, but also to have that counterbalancing reality that others are judging you, or that you might not feel safe in all the spaces that you go to, or that because of the decisions that you've made, you've now been displaced to another city where you don't live close to your family out of protection of your overall sense of well-being. And so Judy was able to cradle the darkness and the light in that Gemini way and do it in a way that was fluid and witty. And because of that, we love her. She made it look fabulous. When we look at her chart, she has Sun and Gemini in the 12th house. 12th house is the house of the unknown, a magical otherworld. So the curious twins, Gemini Sun, and then her moon is in Sagittarius. She was born during the full moon lunation in a far-off land, Sagittarius moon. And then Cancer rising, finding her way back home. When we do the Find Your Inner Dorothy personal myth making with the sun moon rising, it was inspired by Judy Garland's birth chart, because I had an aha moment when I looked at her sun, moon, rising, that it was her character Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz. It was a direct reflection of her birth chart. So again, the curious twin, Gemini sun, and a far-off land, Sagittarius moon, finding her way back home, Cancer rising. Thank you, Judy Garland, for inspiring us. You've got this beautiful Pisces midheaven with Uranus and Black Moon Lilith conjunct in Pisces on the midheaven. You know, radical Uranus, witch Lilith, that's processing the emotions of the collective Pisces in the public midheaven. And so I think of the collective movement of the gay rights movement with Pisces here, and also the Cancer rising. She's often considered the mother of the gay rights movement because of that. Deep bow to you, Judy Garland. Deep bow to all the Geminis out there. I hope you had a lovely birthday. To all the Sagittariuses out there, I hope this Gemini season has been teaching you how to grow and to evolve. And I will see you next time for the Cancer new moon in 2 weeks. Again, lots of new offerings. If you're in Portland, I hope that you are going to sit with this invitation to do the Portland Fool's Journey in person. It will be in Northeast. I will disclose the location in the coming weeks. If you are anywhere else in the world and you are wanting to long to connect with community through the tarot and through astrology, Fool's Journey Online starts in September. And again, I have readings, mentorships available right now, and another community support group for this summer. Looking so forward to connecting with each and every one of you. And if you're just here to listen to the podcast too, that's wonderful. I always love to hear from you. So if you do listen and you haven't left a review, I'd love to hear from you. Helps me know who's out there in the world, because I'm just sitting behind this microphone, and I'd like to know what's going on out there. So say hey, and happy Sagittarius full moon. Again, our phrases for the Sagittarius full moon, they are: I expand, I envision, I set myself free. Our affirmation is: I put my faith in something greater than myself. I lovingly let go of control. And so again, my wish for you on this Sagittarius full moon here at the end of Gemini season is that you give your mind and aspirations a rest, release the need to know, expand your communication with spirit, and come back home to your breath. So deep breath into your body, your legs, your arms. And I'll see you next time. Thanks as always for being here. And remember, deep breaths.